Welcome to the Freedom in California podcast. I'm Sam Coleman, your host and outreach director at the Freedom Foundation in California, and I'm joined today by Mariah Gondeiro, lead litigator at the Freedom Foundation in California. Stay tuned. All right, welcome back to the Freedom in California podcast. I am once again joined by Mariah Gondeiro, lead litigator for the Freedom Foundation in California. Mariah, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for having me. Hey, where did you get that cup?
This cup?
Yes.
Me about my Janus mug? Well,
yes.
Asking Mariah. The Freedom Foundation made a couple of these mugs that we've occasionally given out to, supporters or people. And it on the front side here, it says right here, opt out today, our website where we direct public employees to help them get out of their union.
Why did I not know about this, and why don't I have a mug? This doesn't seem fair.
I guess you're just not that cool or something. I don't know. I have a mug. Why don't you have a mug?
Whatever.
Gave the lifeguards a mug.
I guess I'm going to have to talk to the people in the Freedom Foundation office about this.
Yes, so. Well, we gave the lifeguards a mug. I think there's actually some photos rolling around somewhere out there of the lifeguards holding up our Ask Me About Jane. They were pumped when we gave that to them.
Awesome.
All right. Well, Mariah, I don't know if you heard, but so Governor Newsom is apparently a major shareholder in a couple of wineries across, or I think it's just one. I think he's a major shareholder in one winery in Napa County. I don't know, have you heard about this?
I vaguely heard about it, but why don't you tell me the rest?
Sure. So he's a major shareholder in this winery, and Napa County apparently is under whatever limit you need for new coronavirus cases to keep businesses open. The governor recently in my county of Sacramento closed bars, wineries, a couple of entertainment centers, and some other large businesses after the apparent second wave of coronavirus cases. Yet somehow in Napa County, where the governor owns, or at least is a major shareholder in this winery, it has managed to stay open.
Wow, seems a little bit hypocritical.
A little fishy, maybe?
Yeah, a little bit fishy.
Right, and not that we would advocate for any business closing down, but, I think what we're just pointing out here is, perhaps if we're going to do something, it should be done uniformly so that everyone...
Absolutely.
Because what we also saw when we asked for the 3-month dues moratorium on, public employees unions is that they had millions of dollars in the bank, and they could have very easily, given people back a couple months of dues to help them with the, financial downturn that we're currently seeing and that we've seen over the last few months. We didn't get any kind of response from Newsom on that. And so it seems like, this whole new normal that we keep hearing about is one rule for, the people in the in crowd and another rule for the people on sort of the out crowd.
Yeah, you've kind of seen that bias play out recently as well. People protesting on the streets are allowed to be in close proximity with each other, but yet you can't go to church and sing. So I think that's why people don't really or are questionable about these rules, because they're not being applied uniformly.
Right, exactly. And, the Freedom Foundation in Washington, or I guess our national headquarters in Washington, we recently had a Facebook Live event where we talked about our recent mask lawsuits and how they're not being evenly applied, and how, it seems like, it's just an unfair rule. And, it's our opinion at the Freedom Foundation, I believe, that if you want to wear a mask, you should be able to wear a mask, right? So, but anyone who did not get a chance to see that Facebook Live with Max Nelson and Aaron White, I would recommend going and checking that out as well, because it was very informative. They even did a little Q&A section where they answered, questions from the comments, which is always a little dangerous.
Yeah.
Comment, but I appreciate that.
Sometimes you can get some trolls on there.
Right, exactly. And I don't think we did get any. I think I was.
Oh, that's good.
I saw mostly just people who had actual questions about
wow.
the lawsuit. So that was great. But anyways, getting sort of into what we wanted to talk about today, which is a couple of lawsuits that we've recently launched. Mariah, can you tell me a little bit about the CalHR lawsuit, what that is and what we're doing there?
Yeah, so we're suing California Human Resource Department because in January and then in March, our canvassing team, which you head up, sent some public records requests asking for basic information like the names of bargaining union representatives, a list of employees in the bargaining union, a list that are not in the bargaining unit, the total number of employees, just very basic information that they have. And they came back and they said, we can't give you this information because it's part of the collective bargaining process. And so the public agency has a duty to be, if they withhold information, to cite one of the listed exemptions under the California Public Records Act, or they're supposed to show that this information will harm the public if it's released. They couldn't accomplish any of that. Instead, they just gave us a bogus answer. The collective bargaining exemption, that's not even an exemption. They made that up.
So they made up an exemption to stop us from getting public records.
Yes, very basic public records. And so we filed the lawsuit, and we're hoping that with this lawsuit, we'll hold them accountable and that they'll know when we ask for information, they can't withhold this information just because they don't like who we are. And also too, they're going to have to pay for our attorney's costs and fees.
Right. So how do these kinds of public records lawsuits vary from the other kinds of lawsuits that we file, i.e. Lawsuits that we file against unions who, for example, might not let their members out or might try to claim that they signed a card and they can't get out for some amount of time? How is this different?
Well, this is different because we're just trying to get basic information from the public entities. We're seeking, injunctive relief, meaning we want them to give us over this information immediately. Whereas at the other cases, we're suing under the First Amendment. We're arguing that the union is and the state working together are harming the public employees' First Amendment rights. So it's a different forum, a different legal arguments, and then also different relief as well.
So, Mariah, do we expect this lawsuit to be drawn out over months, years? I know with some of the lawsuits we're in currently, we get a bad judge, we lose, we take it to the next level. We've got quite a few cases now in the Ninth Circuit in California. Do we expect this to be one of those cases where it just sort of drags on?
Not typically. I mean, these cases are really expedited because typically the government, has realized that it's very important for, for people to have access to public records. Although California's, they're going away from transparency more and more. But usually when we file the lawsuit, the defendant, which is the state, they will have 30 days to respond, and then the judge should make a decision shortly after that. So it's typically not dragged out as long as there are other cases.
Right. So what worries me about these kinds of lawsuits is when you take the Freedom Foundation out of it, let's just say you're, a normal person, you don't have this power of multiple attorneys backing you up. You're just a normal guy and you want to know, how much the state is spending on public employees' salaries. Let's say, maybe you're a fry cook and you really want to know how much the people you're paying with your tax dollars are making. If you don't have the ability to file a lawsuit, to have a legal team backing you up, what can you even do? It sounds like all you can do is file a lawsuit.
Yeah, really nothing, because if they don't want to hand it over, they won't. And most people don't understand what the process is that you have to file a lawsuit. They would have no idea where to file a lawsuit and against whom and on what legal theories.
So, Mariah, what interests me the most about this case is that in California, written in our Constitution is the right to obtain public records, the right to review the work of your government and see that your tax dollars are being spent wisely. How does that fit into this case?
Well, that's one of the legal theories we bring, is that they're violating the California Constitution as well by withholding these documents without just cause.
Gotcha. Okay, well, I want to move on now to another similar lawsuit, which is in San Bernardino County. So can you tell me a little bit more about that lawsuit, about what we're doing there and what we're hoping to accomplish?
So the lawsuit against San Bernardino County is very similar to the lawsuit we filed against CalHR. Basically, they denied us the same information, the lists of employees in the bargaining unit, the list of employees in different, departments. They didn't give us this information because they said they don't have a list of the employees who are members of each union, which is very peculiar because
That's suspicious.
it is a little bit suspicious because they're the ones who are, deducting dues and then giving it to the union, so they would need to know who they're deducting dues from.
So if I'm understanding that right, what they're claiming is that we don't have a list of the people that we took money from to a certain union. There's just no record of that transaction.
Yeah.
Are we sure that the union even exists? Because it sounds like at this point, we're not sure what's going on in San Bernardino County if they can't keep track of who they're paying.
Or what they're doing.
Or what they're doing, yeah. That's, okay, this may be more than a public records lawsuit. We may need to look into. So it
Are
sounds
they
like,
actually doing their job?
Right, exactly. Does anyone work there? So I think what we're hoping to accomplish from that is exactly what we're hoping to accomplish with the California HR lawsuit is, we just want to make sure that they are, living up to their constitutional obligation to provide public records when the public requests them. Of course, making sure that you're not, exposing the identity of somebody who's perhaps should not have their identity exposed. Like, I know there's a exemption for police officers who may be in undercover positions, and perhaps even the fact that they exist, if a criminal could request their name and find out that there's 8 undercover officers at San Bernardino County, that could put their lives in danger. So that makes sense. We don't want to see cops get hurt over public records, but at the same time, what we're asking for is so mundane that
it's pretty basic. We're not asking for, personal information. This is all information within their control. Really, they're just being difficult and don't want to work with us.
Why do you think that is? Do you think it's because of who we are as an organization, or do you think that this is more of just a general distaste for providing?
It's really hard to speculate. It appears that maybe they just don't like us, but also maybe they just do this to everyone. And most people don't know, that they have legal recourse. And so they just give up.
Right.
So I don't, it's really hard to speculate, but I wouldn't doubt that most public agencies probably don't like the Freedom Foundation because we tend to sue them a lot. So
only if they do something wrong. As long as
they don't want to give out information, they could be scared because they're thinking, oh my gosh, what are they going to sue us for now?
Do you think that there is any angle to this to where they're afraid of what might happen with the union if they gave us the information? Do you think that the union might get angry that we're releasing or that they're releasing the names of their dues payers? Do you think there's a financial angle here? Why do you think that has anything to do with this?
It's very plausible because they work, hand in glove together with, deducting dues. The county relies on the union relies on the county. So it's very likely, but it's really hard to, guess what's going on.
I guess that's what the lawsuit's for.
Yes.
Okay, well, Mariah, thank you. We're going to take a short break, and then after that, we will continue by talking about the recent Janiversary celebrations that we had. So we'll be right back. If you like what we do with the Freedom Foundation and you want to see more of it, consider making a small financial donation. The Freedom Foundation is a 501c3 nonprofit, and all donations are 100% tax deductible. Visit freedomfoundation.com/donate. All right, everyone, thank you for rejoining us after that little break. Again, we are here with Mariah Gondeiro, lead litigator for the Freedom Foundation in California. Mariah, have you had a chance to take a look at the story that Bob wrote, the one that was in the California Globe?
Yes.
Great. So in there, you may have seen that the Freedom Foundation in California, we have put together a first of its kind study using public records requests, IRS reports, data that the state had given us before they weren't giving us data anymore. And what we found was that there's actually been a massive drop in union members in California, specifically public employees, public employee union members in California. So what we found in this study was that there are about 100,000 public employees who are no longer members of their unions, which represents, I believe it is right around 11% of all public employees in California. So what this adds up to is about 42,000 SEIU members are no longer union members, around, I'm sorry, that's 42,000 SEIU and AFSCME members. Around 31,000 CSEA, which is California School Employees Association members, are no longer members, and about 16,000 California Teachers Association teachers are no longer members. Also interesting to note that we found was that the California Faculty Association, which is a sort of a part, or was a part of the California Teachers Association, disaffiliated and took all 19,000 members with them. So, I mean, these last 2 years have kind of been a whirlwind for us at the Freedom Foundation and for public employees as well.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, it's not surprising that when public employees know of their rights, they choose to leave because the union, quite frankly, isn't really doing a whole lot for them. You know, that's what I hear almost every day from public employees who come to us through the Opt Out Today website. They want to leave because they feel like the union is just not doing anything for them. And prior, they were forced to stay because the law was against them.
Right. And if, I mean, so, you know, before Janus, you could kind of opt out a little bit. What they would do is that, and Mariah, I'm sure you're familiar with this, what they would do is that, you know, you could become a fee payer, and then you would only pay for the part of union dues which were supposed to go to representation. In many cases, this was somewhere between 80 to 90% of full dues. You could also become a conscientious objector, where you could say, I have a strongly held religious or, you know, civic belief. I don't think I should be doing this. And you could give that money to, and this is important, a union approved charity. But there was no way to actually keep your money in your pocket. So Mariah, you know, as we've talked about, we've seen some pretty massive losses from the union in the last 2 years. So do you think that this has anything to do with our struggle to obtain public records?
Yes, I think it's very, you know, plausible that there could be a link, as the state of California is seeing how successful we are in helping people leave the union. They're probably going to be more resistant to our efforts to get information so that we can then tell more public employees about their rights. Because if they don't know about their rights, you know, they're not going to do anything. They're not going to exercise them.
Right. And this really gives credence to this idea that, you know, unions were supposed to be created as adversarial to their employer. So, you know, the union, the employer would, you know, butt heads, and eventually they would come to some kind of, you know, agreement where, you know, maybe they'd get a raise, maybe they get some time off. But it seems like nowadays with public employees unions, they're actually working together. Is that something that you've noticed?
Yes, it is a very weird relationship with public sector employees. It's, you know, and it's not surprising. I mean, even Franklin Roosevelt, who was extremely progressive, cautioned against public sector unions because he recognized the conflict of interest that would occur. And you're seeing that in full display in California. I mean, California is a perfect example of, you know, big, powerful unions partnering with the government, you know, to get, you know, sweetheart deals. You see it all the time.
Right. It really raises the question, who's looking out for the taxpayer? Because it's pretty clear to me that governor's not looking out for the taxpayer. You know, a lot of legislators aren't looking out for the taxpayer. They're happy to take the, you know, the political contributions that these unions provide them and, you know, just sign whatever agreement comes to their desk. So who is looking out for the taxpayer here?
No one. The Freedom Foundation.
I would say, yeah, the Freedom Foundation.
that's
We're looking out
that's
for
why
the
we're
tax.
here.
Yeah. So unfortunately, this year's Janiversary was a little bit less than last year's Janiversary celebration, due to current events. We couldn't have canvassers out on the street. We didn't feel it was safe to put them in that situation. Most of our outreach ended up being online, and we did send more than 500,000 emails over the course of the Janiversary, which was June 28th or June 27th. But last year, we did go big. We flew a plane with a banner that said "Opt Out Today" on it over an SCIU 1000 rally in downtown Sacramento. We spoke to hundreds, if not thousands, of people in a single day. We handed out hundreds of flyers. So even though we couldn't be there in person to, really celebrate this great day with the public employees that we love to help so much, we still did find our own way to celebrate it. And we're hoping that next year, once all this blows over, fingers crossed, we're going to be out there and we're going to be going bigger and better than we ever have before. All right, well, Mariah, thank you for joining me again on the Freedom in California podcast. Again, I am Sam Coleman, the Outreach Director here in California. And Mariah, thank you.
Thank you.